Welcome friends to another r/entitled parents video. Our first story of the day is by Your Royal Pantness. Mom books the ice rink the wrong day and expects us to share. Background: I'm an adult figure skater and I practice in a big group of other adults. There are skaters going from beginners up to former elite skaters. During Corona, the public rink we usually skate in has been closed and occasionally we've rented a private rink for an hour to skate. It's a lot more expensive than our ordinary practice, but you do what you must. Also, it's incredibly hard to get these time slots since the demand is high. Skating is a Corona-safe sport, no worries. We're also 8 people on the whole ice and change outside. It's all correct by our laws. A few months ago, we had rented the ice and arrived at our time. Since we're responsible and change outside, we couldn't see what was happening inside. Once I and one of the other skaters were ready to go on the ice, we headed inside and by the rink side we find about 10 parents and something like 15 to 20 children aged 3 to 6 years. One of the moms, entitled Mom EM, approached me with a worried expression. She said, "Are you the ones that rented the ice?" I said, "Yes." "You see, we were just informed that we booked the wrong day. Apparently we booked next week this time, but we're here today." I say, "I'm sorry to hear. What a bummer." Entitled Mother looks at me and the other skater. "Is it just the two of you?" The others are still tying their skates outside and only the 2 of us had come inside yet. I say, "No, we're a whole group." "Can't we split the ice half and half?" I say, no, we're not here to joy skate. We're practicing seriously. For several reasons, the first and foremost, it is incredibly dangerous. If I run into your child, I'll hurt them badly and I risk hurting myself too. But I mean, it's your kid. Do you want their face sliced up? I would never, ever let my, not existing, own kids on the ice during a serious practice. Secondly, we rent the rink to be able to practice freely. Half the rink makes it impossible to practice your program. Third, children usually drag a lot of mud onto the ice, either on their coveralls or the parents on their shoes when they walk on the ice to help them when they fall. Dirt and mud is a big no-no for skates. It'll wear them out quickly and we'll have to pay for resharpening. Okay, here I felt kind of sorry for them. We all screw up sometimes and it sucks. Can't be fun to reschedule an event like this, and I get that. It's what happens next that makes the story entitled. The mom goes to the other parents and I hear her saying silently like, "I guess you could come next week if that fits you." Then she goes to the children, points at us and says loudly, "These people don't want you to skate. They want it all for themselves." With a super accusing tone like we personally were responsible for her mistake. I ignore her and step onto the ice together with the other skater. This commotion already cost us a few minutes of our short time. I see one more from our group enter the rink, and Entitled Mother speaks to her too. I can't hear it though. This woman later confirms to me that Entitled Mother tried the same trick on her, guilting her into letting them share the ice, and then asked if the children, now all out of their skates, could at least walk out on the ice to touch it. Since they're all wearing shoes and mud rule still applies, my friend declines. Also, when the ice is newly resurfaced, it's crazy slippery and very hard to walk on. Big risk of falling and hurting oneself. The rest of our group arrives and we start warming up. Half a minute later, Entitled Mother opens the gate and lets 2 of the children run straight onto the ice. I wave at her to get them back off the ice, and she waits purposely before telling them to come back. Only, they don't listen. She lets them slide around how much they want. Eventually, she has to walk out on her muddy shoes to pick them up and go back. Not a sorry, no nothing. Not the worst entitlement, but it still boils my blood, especially how she tries to blame us in front of the kids. Kids are usually very fond of looking at us skating since it looks cool, and when we skate publicly, we often show off whatever they want to see or teach them something. I hate to be accused of being the bad guy. Do you think this is the kind of situation where you should have spoke up a little bit and explained out loud about how the entitled mother made the mistake and that's why they're not skating today? Something the kids can hear and hopefully understand? Or considering the kids, is it something you just kind of grin and bear and try and forget later on? Let me know in the comments down below. This next story is by Goggle Candy. He was white like everyone else. The other day I was driving around town getting errands done. One of those was to get a new controller for my PC. I have a friend who works at GameStop in town, so I swung by. As I'm entering, I'm noticing a woman with her child standing front and center at the counter with my friend at the register. I start to tune into the conversation. After all this happened, my friend filled in the details, so I'll start right before I entered. Karen says, "I'd like to get my money back for this game. My husband bought it from here last week, but it isn't the franchise game my son wanted." Friend says, "Sure thing." Game still in plastic wrap, unopened. Starts the process. "Do you have the receipt for this purchase?" Karen says, "No. Why would I need that? It's 2021. Everything should be digital now. You should have a record of it." Friend says, "That isn't something I have." "Do you have a reward card with us? It would show the purchase." Karen takes out her reward card. Friend checks it and only sees the initial activation of the card on her account. This is also around when I entered the store. He says, "I'm sorry, this doesn't have a purchase for this game." She says, "Well, it was taken out of my credit card." She then takes out her phone and shows him her full purchase history of her credit card. "See, I made a purchase on my card." My friend visibly, uncomfortably glances at the phone and sees an unitemized purchase at that store for a lot more than the purchase of a single game. Friend says, "I'm sorry, this doesn't show this game's purchase. Just that this card was used to make a large purchase here, and I don't think I could use this as proof anyway. What I can do is put the amount on a rewards card for store credit." Now is when the Karen starts to raise her voice. "What do you mean? So because I spent more money here, I'm getting screwed? I want my money back. This is ridiculous. I want to speak to your manager." My friend informs her that there is no manager in the store, that they are the only current employee on site. She does not take the news well, obviously. "Then who do you call? You must have someone if this place is blown up." My friend then begins to call local stores for their managers, or if one of the district managers happens to be there. Unfortunately, none pick up. "I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't get a hold of another store's manager and our district manager is quarantined due to COVID." She says, "Why can't you call them then? If they're quarantined, all they should be doing is answering the phone. All I want is my money back." Friend says, "If I knew who you bought the game from, maybe I could verify it." "Do you recall the employee's name?" She says, "I don't. He was white like everyone else that lives in state. Some guy, I don't know. Why would I need a physical receipt? It's 2021. Nothing should be physical. Look it up on your computer." Friend says, "I'm sorry, but I can't do that. The most I can do for you is give you the store credit." I had by now decided I would stay in the store to keep an eye on things to ensure she didn't accuse my friend of anything, as well as keep an eye on the child who was not being attended to and wandering the store. Mind you, her son was just hanging out, seemingly unbothered by the fit his mother was causing. However, I tuned out the conversation as an advertisement for a game came on the store TV that made it very hard not to laugh at the parallel. The advertisement went, "When someone thinks they're in the right, that's when the real cruelty in people starts to come out. So what do you say? Are you really right?" When I tuned back in, Karen was accepting the store credit in a tone as if she had won the argument. She then went on a rant about all this being her husband's fault and that the store should be more open about options to return products. She took the digital currency and left with her son, who has not said a word the entire time. My friend then turned, gave me an exasperated sigh, said, "I was so done. I didn't bother to ask if her or her husband had signed up for digital receipts. I mean, it's 2021 after all, right?" At least it seems like there's some kind of good sign for the kid. They're wandering around, but it's a GameStop. That's all kids do at GameStops is wander around. The kid didn't say anything. They seemed at least rather polite. OP didn't have anything to say about them. I just hope the entitled mother doesn't corrupt them. They didn't seem too surprised about her antics, that's for sure. Our next story is by Morrigan1129. Ex's girlfriend expects me to take her kids for a weekend. My ex is not actually my ex. We've been separated for 9 years now, but we've never actually signed papers for numerous reasons, financial being the biggest one. We've co-parented our son well for those years, and for the past 8 years, we've included my boyfriend in the process. We've been doing quite well at this, and the three of us have established a pretty good relationship. 2 years ago, however, my ex got a new girlfriend. Her and I don't get along, mainly on her part, and no, I don't just say this because it's my side. I've always encouraged my son to respect her and try to get along with her, but he can't stand her or her 2 daughters. I don't mind her youngest. She's hyper and bounces off the wall, but she's 8, it's to be expected. The oldest one, 11, the same age as my son, however, is she's a witch. She actively ridicules and belittles her little sister, my son, and my daughter, 6. She's rude to me, my ex-in-laws, and even my ex. This girl is absolutely out of control. Background out of the way, last weekend was my son's weekend at his father's. However, my ex and his girlfriend had been invited to an adult party. My ex and I were discussing it when he dropped my son off on Wednesday, and he mentioned that it might be easier if we switched weekends around, but he wasn't sure if he could find a babysitter for the 2 girls, so we had to wait and see. I was fine with that and told him to just keep me informed. Later that night, his girlfriend sent me a message saying that since I was taking my son for the weekend, !1, I could just take the 2 girls and keep them for the weekend too. Before I could even respond to this, she added that she would send them over clothes and some money so we could get pizza. I told her that I wouldn't be taking her girls, that I wasn't taking my son for the weekend, that he lives with me, and his father and I were just switching weekends around, and I certainly wasn't taking her children for the weekend. She sent a message back saying that it was very rude of me to not take her girls, since she took my son every other weekend. Before I could respond again, she sent another message saying she'd send over $15 for pizza. I told her that she didn't take my son on the weekends, that my son spent the weekends with his father, and reiterated again that I wouldn't be taking her girls. She responded asking what I was doing that I couldn't take the girls. I told her we weren't doing anything. We were just going to have a nice, relaxing weekend. She asked why I would ruin her and my ex's weekend by not taking the girls. By this point, I was annoyed and told her that I didn't like her oldest daughter and she was a brat, and she wasn't allowed in my home outside of emergency situations. She responded by saying that I was an awful person, a terrible mother, and I didn't deserve children since I clearly didn't understand parents who just need a break. I ended up blocking her, but dang. I'm going to completely expect that this lady follows this up by dumping the kids on the doorstep and forcing OP's hand. And I hope OP has the balls to call CPS and prove that they're not messing around when they say they don't want those kids for the weekend. Their son spending time with their father is one thing, babysitting her kids makes no sense. And our final story of the day is by Daxton Blake 27. Entitled family who abandoned me demands I give them a $6,000 wedding dress to entitled sister. I'm the executive assistant to the CEO of a pretty big fashion brand, which basically means I'm my boss's witch, and I do whatever she asks. My job has many aspects and is always open to more. It gets tiring sometimes, but there are perks to my job. I get free clothes a lot, mainly for when I go to big events with my boss. It wouldn't look very good if I was wearing another designer, but my boss also gives me any defects, clothing that came out wrong or is imperfect or not up to my boss's standards. Now this for some reason makes people think I'm stuck up. I swear I'm not. I really appreciate that my boss does this, as there was a time when I had very little and couldn't afford to buy food, no matter clothing, cheap or expensive. Anyways, one day, my boss mentions that one of the wedding dresses she had was a defect, a train shorter than what it was supposed to be. She asked if I knew anyone who could use one, which I did. My best friend of 5 years had gotten engaged a few months before. My boss gave it to me, and I gave it to my friend. This friend has been there for me since I was 20. She took me in and helped me find my path out of a very dark situation. I love her more than anything in the world. Here's where things get messy. My friend made a post thanking me and my boss, and my family saw it and started a stream of calls and messages from my family. I do not have a good relationship with my family. My parents kicked me out when I was 16 after I came out to them. My sister wasn't much better than my parents. We actually never got along even before I was kicked out. She's a very entitled person who was very selfish. I struggled for a long time after that. I lived with my aunt until I was 18, which wasn't easy as we had little money. I ended up going to design school, getting an internship, and then a job at my current company. It wasn't until my family found out that I was making good money and working for a multi-million-dollar company did they suddenly want back in my life, which I allowed to avoid drama. Basically, my mom and sister called demanding to know why I gave the dress to my friend and not my sister. Apparently, she was getting married. I didn't even know she was engaged. They berated me, yelling how family should come first. These are the same people who kicked me out at 16. They even suggested I try to take it back from my friend as family should come first. When I told them, point blank, that was never going to happen. They started bashing me to extended family, who also started messaging me, insulting me. My sister even tried to call my boss to complain, which is just nuts, right? I love the fact that the sister tried to call up the boss like, OP gave the dress away to their friend and not me. In what world would the boss ever give a crap about that? I hope the boss is awesome and was just like, okay, well, if you have an actual concern, let me know. Bye. Or didn't even say anything, just hung up. Also, OP said that they let them in to avoid drama. I don't know, I think maybe they want to rethink their strategy because I don't think avoiding drama is working out too much anymore. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.